In all of human history, we had never imagined that our first message to an advanced alien civilization would be a firm no. Yet here we were, the entire United Nations Security Council gathered in an emergency session, drafting what might be the most important diplomatic response ever written by human hands. 3 days ago, a massive fleet of ships appeared at the edge of our solar system. Their arrival wasn't the graceful first contact we had dreamed about in our science fiction stories. Instead, it came in the form of a blunt declaration. Earth was to be incorporated into the Galactic Empire as a protectorate world, whether we liked it or not. With all due respect, began Admiral Sarah Chin, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the alien fleet. They're not asking for permission. They're informing us of our fate. She zoomed in on one of the capital ships, a behemoth that made our largest aircraft carriers look like rubber ducks in comparison. The UN Secretary General leaned forward, his eyes reflecting the blue glow of the display. Then perhaps it's time we inform them of ours. His voice carried the weight of centuries of human determination. We didn't climb out of the caves, survive ice ages, cross oceans, and reach for the stars just to bow down at the first sign of a bigger fish in the pond. The alien message had been clear. Earth was primitive by their standards, but our system sat at a crucial junction of hyperspace lanes. We were to be uplifted into their civilization, a process that would involve replacing our governments with their appointed officials and restructuring our society to better serve the Empire's needs. What they didn't expect was our response. Ladies and gentlemen, the British representative stood, tablet in hand. I believe we have something they haven't encountered in their 1,000 years of expansion, a species that would rather face extinction than surrender its freedom. The room fell silent as detailed scans from our deep space arrays appeared on screen. The alien fleet was impressive, yes, but our scientists had already spotted critical weaknesses in their formation. Centuries of human warfare had taught us to look for the gaps, the vulnerabilities, the places where pride becomes a fatal flaw. We've detected no energy shields on their vessels, the Indian Defense Minister reported, a slight smile playing at her lips. They rely entirely on their advanced hull materials. It seems they haven't had to fight a real war in generations. That's when we made our decision. Earth would not merely refuse their generous offer. We would make such a definitive statement that no other empire would ever think of trying to subjugate us again. The plan was audacious, perhaps even insane by conventional standards. But then again, humanity had never played by anyone's rules but our own. We had prepared for this moment without even knowing it, through decades of space exploration, military innovation, and the kind of stubborn resourcefulness that only comes from being a species that evolved as both predator and prey. As I record this message for future generations, our response fleet is already moving into position. Thousands of small, stealthy craft, each carrying payloads that would make those Empire ships wish they'd never entered our solar system. We're about to teach them why Earth's history is filled with tales of smaller forces defeating vast empires. And to the Galactic Empire, if you're watching this transmission, you should have done your homework. Earth isn't just another primitive world for you to absorb into your empire. We're humanity. We're the species that turned our own nuclear weapons into spacecraft propulsion systems just because someone said it couldn't be done. We're the crazy ones who climb mountains simply because they're there. You want our solar system. Come and take it. But first, let us show you why Earth has been marked as entry forbidden by every advanced civilization that came before you. The next 48 hours proved why humans had always excelled at what others considered impossible. Our shipyards, hidden in the asteroid belt, had been preparing for this moment ever since we detected the first anomalous signals from deep space a decade ago. While the world watched cat videos and argued about celebrity scandals, the greatest minds on Earth worked in secret to ensure our species' survival. They're scanning the outer defense grid, Lieutenant Commander Robert Chen reported, his eyes fixed on the quantum radar display. We had scattered thousands of microsatellites throughout the solar system, each one carrying what looked like simple communication equipment. The Empire's ships passed right through them, dismissing them as primitive observation devices. That was their second mistake. Their first was assuming we would surrender. How long until they realize what they're actually looking at? asked Director Zhang of the Global Defense Initiative. She hadn't slept in 3 days, surviving on black coffee and sheer determination. The dark circles under her eyes matched those of everyone else in the command center. "They won't," Admiral Chen replied, allowing herself a brief smile. "Not until it's too late. Those primitive satellites are quantum locked to each other. The moment they try to approach Earth, they'll find themselves trapped in a web of their own making." The plan was elegantly simple, built on principles that the Empire's advanced technology had long forgotten. While they relied on complex hyperspace engines and antimatter weapons, we had focused on the fundamental forces of nature. Sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, our submarine fleets were mobilizing, not the ones that appeared in military parades and news reports, but the true deterrent force, vessels built with technology that would make most science fiction writers blush. Each carried warheads designed not to destroy, but to disrupt the very fabric of spacetime around the Empire's ships. "Latest intel from the Kuiper Belt outpost," a young analyst announced, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "They're deploying what appears to be terraforming equipment. They really think they're going to reshape our world in their image." A harsh laugh echoed through the command center. "They still think this is a colonization mission," Director Zhang observed. "They haven't figured out that we've been watching them for years, learning their weaknesses, preparing our response." On screens around the room, data streamed in from our deep space probes. The Empire's ships were impressive, yes, but they were also predictable. Their formations followed patterns documented in historical records stretching back thousands of years. They hadn't faced real opposition in so long that they'd forgotten the most important rule of warfare: never underestimate your enemy. "Message from Luna Base," another operator called out. "The quantum entanglement array is ready. We can deploy the field on your command." This was the moment of truth. Once activated, there would be no going back. The quantum field would sever their connection to their precious hyperspace lanes, trapping them in normal space where the laws of physics couldn't be so easily ignored, where humanity's countless years of fighting against overwhelming odds would finally pay off. As the Empire's fleet moved past Mars, their sensors still hadn't detected our true defensive capabilities. They saw what they expected to see: a primitive civilization with basic orbital infrastructure and crude nuclear weapons. They had no idea that each piece of space debris they passed was part of a trap centuries in the making. The countdown had begun. In less than 12 hours, the Empire would learn why Earth had earned its reputation as the galaxy's ultimate forbidden zone. And humanity, we were just getting started. 6 hours before the Empire's projected arrival in Earth orbit, the first signs of their overconfidence began to show. Their massive ships started to spread out, preparing for what they assumed would be a simple show of force. They had no idea they were sailing into what would become known as humanity's finest hour. "They're broadcasting their ultimatum on all frequencies," announced Communications Officer Peter Sullivan, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The message was being transmitted in over 1,000 alien languages, but not one of them was human. Another sign of their arrogance. The Empire's message boomed through the command center speakers. "Your primitive defenses cannot hope to resist. Accept your place in the greater galaxy, and prosperity will follow. Resist and face obliteration." Director Zhang stood up slowly, her exhaustion replaced by a steel-like resolve. "Send our response, the one we prepared." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person present, and initiate Operation Lighthouse. Across the solar system, humanity's trap began to sprain. The seemingly harmless satellites suddenly pulsed with energy, creating a complex web of quantum fields. The Empire's ships hit the first layer like flies in a spider's web, their engines struggling against forces they'd never encountered. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Chen's voice carried an edge of excitement. "Their forward elements are experiencing a 40% power drop. The quantum disruption is working exactly as designed." On the main display, the Empire's neat formation began to fragment. Their massive ships, each one capable of destroying a continent, were being pulled apart by invisible forces. But this was just the beginning. From hidden bases on Mars' moons, automated fighters launched in swarms. These weren't the clumsy rockets the Empire expected. They were something entirely new. Each drone carried a miniaturized version of humanity's secret weapon, the Void Lance, a device that turned the enemy's own mast against them. First wave of drones engaging in 30 seconds, reported Admiral Chen, her voice steady despite the tension. Void Lance batteries at full charge. The Empire's response was predictable. They launched their own fighters, expecting an easy victory against our primitive technology. Their energy weapons blazed across space, missing targets that simply weren't there when the beams arrived. Our drones, guided by quantum AI systems, were fighting in 4 dimensions while theirs could only manage 3. They're bringing their capital ships about, someone called out. Energy signatures suggest they're charging their main weapons. A collective breath was held in the command center. This was the moment we'd been waiting for. The Empire's flagship, a behemoth of impossible scale, began to glow with gathered energy. They were about to demonstrate why they'd conquered 1,000 worlds. But Earth had one final card to play. Luna base signals ready, Director Zhang announced, her finger hovering over a secure terminal. Initiating Protocol Orpheus. Deep beneath the lunar surface in chambers carved by machines that officially didn't exist, humanity's ultimate defense system hummed to life. We had discovered something in our quantum physics research, something that had made our greatest scientists both laugh and weep. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony. As the Empire's weapons reached full charge, ready to demonstrate their unstoppable might, the quantum web around their ships began to resonate at a very specific frequency. A frequency that our scientists had discovered hidden in the background radiation of space itself, nature's own kill switch. The Empire's energy weapons began to flicker, their impossible power starting to waver. In the command center, displays showed exactly what we'd hoped. The quantum disruption was cascading through their systems, turning their own technology against them. "Energy spike," shouted Lieutenant Commander Chen. "They're trying to force their way through." The command center erupted in activity as humanity's final gambit approached its moment of truth. Everything we planned, everything we prepared for, came down to the next few moments. The Empire was about to learn why Earth had always been marked as forbidden territory, and the galaxy would never be the same. Just as victory seemed within our grasp, the Empire revealed why they had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their flagship, now crackling with damaged energy fields, split open like a mechanical flower. Inside was something none of our simulations had predicted, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist in our reality. New energy signature detected. Lieutenant Commander Chen's voice cracked with urgency. It's rewriting local space-time. The quantum web, our carefully crafted trap, began to distort around the crystal's influence. We had prepared for their technology, but this was something else entirely. Director Zhang gripped her console, knuckles white. "Get me Luna base. We need to modify the resonance frequency now." But before she could finish, every screen in the command center flickered with a new message. Not from the Empire this time, but from somewhere much closer to home. "This is Dr. Anna Patterson, Mount Wilson Observatory." The transmission cut through all channels. Impossible to ignore. "The crystal they're using, we've seen it before. Check your geological archives. Permian extinction event 252 million years ago. They're not just here to conquer Earth. They're here to reclaim it." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't facing an invasion. We were facing eviction. The Empire believed they had a prior claim to our world, and they had come to collect. "Bringing up deep core sampling data now," announced Officer Sullivan, his hands shaking slightly as he worked. On the main screen, a geological timeline appeared, showing something our scientists had always struggled to explain: traces of impossible technology buried in Earth's oldest rocks. But humanity had one advantage the Empire hadn't counted on. While their civilization had stagnated, relying on ancient crystals and forgotten technology, we had evolved. Each hardship, each war, each near-extinction event had forced us to adapt, to think differently, to survive. New contacts. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the revelation. Multiple quantum signatures emerging from the Oort cloud. They're not Empire ships. The tactical display showed dozens, then hundreds of new vessels, their designs unlike anything we'd ever seen. The Empire's response was immediate and revealing. Their fleet broke formation, priorities suddenly shifting from Earth to these new arrivals. Their communications, previously so confident and commanding, descended into chaos. Translation coming through, Officer Sullivan reported, his eyes widening. The new arrivals, they're calling themselves the Exiled. They're claiming to be the original humans who left Earth during the Permian extinction. Director Zhang stood slowly, her expression unreadable. So that's why Earth was marked as forbidden. We're not just fighting for our present. We're fighting for our past, our future, and our very identity as a species. The quantum web, still straining against the crystal's power, suddenly gained new purpose. Each node began resonating not just with our carefully planned frequency, but with patterns we'd never programmed, patterns that seemed to emerge from Earth itself. Energy signatures are evolving, Lieutenant Commander Chen reported in disbelief. The quantum field is adapting, like it's responding to genetic memory, like Earth itself is remembering. As three fleets hung in space, Empire, Exiled, and Earth, the true battle for humanity's future was about to begin. We had prepared for war, but now we faced something far more complex, a choice about who we really were and who we wanted to become. The crystal's light bathed Earth in its alien glow, ancient technology awakening something deep beneath our feet. In the command center, displays showed seismic activity spiraling out from points all over the globe, places that matched perfectly with humanity's oldest myths about the gods coming down from the sky. All stations, battle stations, Director John commanded, her voice carrying the weight of both history and destiny. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for the truth about our own species. In the chaos of three fleets facing off in Earth's orbit, humanity's true strength emerged, not our weapons or technology, but our ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos. As the Empire's crystal pulsed with increasing power, Director Zhang noticed something everyone else had missed. Look at the resonance patterns, she said, pointing to the quantum field readings. They're not random. They're matching Earth's magnetic field frequencies. Our planet is trying to tell us something. The exiled fleet, hanging back at the edges of the battle, began broadcasting a signal that our systems automatically translated, not because it was alien, but because it was written in the oldest human language ever discovered. The crystals, Admiral Chen read aloud, her voice filled with sudden understanding. They're not weapons. They're keys. She turned to the command staff, eyes bright with revelation. Our ancestors didn't leave Earth because they had to. They left to protect something. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, at coordinates that matched perfectly with the legendary sunken continent of Mu, something ancient stirred to life. Similar activations appeared under the ice of Antarctica, the Sahara Desert, and dozens of other locations mentioned in humanity's oldest stories. Multiple subsurface structures activating. Lieutenant Commander Chen reported, his hands flying over the controls. They're all networked, all connecting to Earth's core itself. The Empire's flagship, still attempting to use the crystal as a weapon, suddenly found itself caught in a resonance pattern they couldn't control. The crystal wasn't responding to their commands anymore. It was responding to Earth. They didn't create this technology. Dr. Patterson's voice came through again from Mount Wilson. They found it, just like they found all their other advanced tech. They're not the masters of the galaxy. They're scavengers. That's when Earth revealed its final secret. The quantum web we'd created, combined with the ancient network awakening beneath our feet, formed something unprecedented, a planetary consciousness. Every human on Earth felt it, a moment of connection not just with each other, but with every human who had ever lived. The Empire's ships began to lose power, their stolen technology refusing to work against its true owners. The exiled fleet moved closer, not to attack, but to protect. They had been waiting for this moment for millions of years. We understand now. Director Zhang spoke into the global broadcast system. Earth isn't just our home, it's our guardian, our ancestor, our future. She turned to the tactical display, where the Empire's mighty fleet hung powerless in space. And it's time for you to leave. The crystal in the Empire's flagship pulsed one final time, not with the harsh light of a weapon, but with the warm glow of recognition. It detached itself from their ship and descended toward Earth, followed by similar crystals emerging from hidden chambers in the exiled fleet. As the crystals approached their ancient resting places, the Empire faced a truth they had denied for millennia. They weren't the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They were simply the most aggressive, the ones who had stolen and misused technology they never truly understood. Final message from the Empire flagship, Officer Sullivan announced, allowing himself a small smile. There, he paused, almost laughing. They're asking for permission to leave our solar system. Director Zhang stood at the command center window, watching as the crystals took their places in Earth's ancient network. The planet itself seemed to hum with renewed purpose, its long-dormant systems awakening not to wage war, but to restore balance. Permission granted, she responded, then added with just a touch of humanity's newfound confidence, and spread the word through your empire. Earth isn't forbidden territory because we're primitive. It's forbidden because we're the ones who built the technology you've been misusing. We just needed time to remember who we really are. As the Empire's fleet retreated into hyperspace, the exiled ships took up protective positions around Earth, not as conquerors or rulers, but as guardians, returned home after millions of years to help humanity rediscover our true heritage. In the command center, the first data from the awakened crystal network began streaming in. It wasn't just a defensive system or a weapon. It was a library, a history, and a roadmap to humanity's next great adventure. Well, Director Zhang said, looking at the assembled staff, it seems Earth isn't banning entry anymore. We're just being very selective about our guests. In the months that followed what became known as the Awakening, humanity began to understand the true meaning of our victory. It wasn't just about defeating an empire. It was about remembering who we were and glimpsing who we might become. The Crystal Network, now fully activated, began sharing its knowledge gradually, careful not to overwhelm us with too much information at once. It turned out our ancestors had been wise enough to know that technology without wisdom was a dangerous thing. They had left us to develop on our own, to face challenges, to evolve, and most importantly, to learn from our mistakes. The network isn't just teaching us, Dr. Patterson explained during a global broadcast from the newly established Earth Heritage Center. It's learning from us too. Our art, our music, our stories, they're all being added to the ancient database. We're not just reclaiming our past, we're building on it. The exiled, our long-lost cousins, shared their own stories of watching and waiting through the millennia. They had protected us from the shadows, ensuring that humanity would have the time it needed to grow, to struggle, to learn, and finally to remember. Director Zhang, now heading the United Earth Council, stood at her favorite spot in the command center, looking out at the gleaming ships of the combined Earth-exiled defense fleet. We thought we were preparing for war, she mused to Admiral Chen, who had become her closest advisor. Instead, we were preparing to welcome our family home. The Empire's retreat had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other civilizations, long oppressed by their technological superiority, began reaching out to Earth, not for our weapons or our defenses, but for something far more valuable, our perspective. That's the real reason Earth was marked as forbidden, Lieutenant Commander Chen explained to a group of students visiting the command center. Not because we were dangerous, but because we represented hope. Hope that a young civilization could grow up without being conquered, could develop its own path. The quantum web, our first stumbling attempt to recreate our ancestors' technology, remained in place, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. A reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in the technology we could build, but in our ability to understand when and how to use it. The Crystal Network continued to reveal its secrets, but always in response to the questions we asked, the problems we were ready to solve. Ancient wisdom merged with modern innovation, creating something entirely new, a path forward that honored both our past and our future. We're not gatekeepers anymore. Director Zhang announced during the first meeting of the Galactic Council of Free Worlds. Earth is opening its doors, not to empires or conquerors, but to friends, to learners, to those who understand that true power lies not in domination, but in cooperation. As I record this final entry, Earth's night sky tells a new story. The stars are no longer distant, unreachable points of light. They're beacons, calling us to explore, to learn, to grow. But this time, we go forward not as conquerors or subjects, but as guardians of a legacy greater than any empire. The empire's attempt to subjugate Earth had failed not because of our weapons or our technology, but because they never understood what made humanity truly special. Our ability to learn from our past while building toward our future, our capacity to face impossible odds with innovation and determination, and most importantly, our talent for turning enemies into allies. Earth isn't forbidden anymore. It's something far more important. It's home, not just for humanity, but for anyone who shares our dream of a galaxy where knowledge is shared, not hoarded, where power serves wisdom, and where every civilization has the right to find its own path to the stars. After all, that's the legacy our ancestors left us, and it's the one we'll pass on to future generations, both on Earth and among the stars.